You're watching News at Prime, a quick roundup of stories making headlines this day. We start with the developments in the Middle East. The Israeli army claims that Iran has fired hundreds of missiles into its territory. This is over the country's land offensive into Lebanon, where Hezbollah is being targeted. Projectiles can be seen over Tel Aviv and Jaffa, with some being intercepted by air defenses. Earlier, the military urging the public to take shelter. All right, let's try and get the latest now on the ground in the Middle East and the tensions continuing to rise in that region. Joining us is Jacob Russell, who is with the Voice of America, a correspondent there. Jacob, good evening to you, and thank you for your time. I know that you are based in Lebanon at the moment, so you won't be able to give us a clearer picture of what's going on in Tel Aviv, that's in Israel, but just give us the possible implications if indeed Iran, as Tel Aviv claims tonight, has been firing rockets into its territory.
I think that what we're seeing here is the long-trailed expansion of this conflict that started on 7th of October, or rather the episode of this conflict that started on 7th of October last year, into the regional war that it has been threatening to become since that point. Israel has been conducting significant strikes in Lebanon, in Beirut. It has crossed many lines that were intended to keep a kind of balance between Israel and Hezbollah in their conflict. And we are seeing Iran react now to not only this incursion into Lebanon on the ground, but also many events that have preceded it to which they haven't really reacted so far.
The President of the United States, Jacob, responding, I think it was at around 6 p.m. South African time, and I just want to read you a quick summation of what he's been saying. In fact, I'm going to quote him directly. "This morning, Vice President and I convened our national security team to discuss Iranian plans to launch an imminent missile attack against Israel. We discussed how the United States is prepared to help Israel defend against its attacks and protect American personnel in the region." Those comments are quite telling. Is it clear that the United States is getting ready to involve their troops, or might it be that they will provide Israel with more armory?
I don't think we can say that it's clear that the US is preparing to put any troops on the ground in the region, although I'm sure that there are military personnel, of course, present in Israel, as they've acknowledged. The US is a staunch ally of Israel, has been for a long time, and they have not been able, despite what they claim to have been doing in more private channels and diplomatically, they have not been able to put the brakes on Israel's actions against Hezbollah, against Iran, its targeted assassinations, its bombing campaigns, and the campaign that's been going on in Gaza.
Yeah.
So I think it's not surprising at all that in this instance, the US is expressing support and preparing to support Israel. I think we don't know what form that will take. They might be trying to help shoot down these missiles. It does appear from the footage that's being released early that quite a lot of these missiles are impacting on the ground. So
interesting developments indeed. Yeah, let's talk then about Lebanon, because the Israeli troops claim that they have entered southern Lebanon, even though the Hezbollah fighters are saying that that is not true. Israel has not been able to gain entry into their territory. Which is true tonight?
It's extremely difficult to tell because access to southern Lebanon is is virtually impossible by the media at the moment. I mean, not just the entirety of southern Lebanon, but to that level of proximity to the border. Hezbollah doesn't want journalists there. Israel doesn't want journalists there. So it does seem that Israel has conducted some raids, but they also acknowledge at the same time that they have been conducting these raids for several months without publicly announcing anything. And interestingly, also Hezbollah didn't publicly announce that these raids had been taking place. You have to remember that Hezbollah has suffered blows in recent weeks, which nobody expected it to suffer. And it has been weakened in a way which nobody expected. So I think that for them to acknowledge now that Israeli troops are entering the country would be a sort of added level of humiliation, basically, that they're not willing to, they're trying to present a coherent front of being able to still hold off Israel, and it remains to be seen whether that's true.
Yeah. Israel, on the other hand, seems to be essentially engulfing the region, if you like. They are attacking Hezbollah on the one end, the Houthi rebels on the other, whilst at the same time they still continue to pummel the Gaza Strip. When you look at all of what is going on now, are we any closer to that fear of a regional war breaking out, or is it still too early to tell?
I mean, personally, I think that a regional war has, in fact, broken out. I mean, you have Israel firing, dozens or hundreds of ballistic missiles. Iran firing dozens of ballistic missiles at Israel. You have war across its border with Lebanon. I mean, this is a regional war. Where how that expands, how that develops, is extremely hard to predict. And also, it must be remembered that the wars between Israel and Lebanon, Israel and Hezbollah, have occurred before, and the diplomatic, I think, solution is pushing the definition of the word, but the diplomatic efforts that bring the violence to a close often happen after the violence has peaked. So that may be the case this time as well.
Yeah. Jacob Russell, thank you very much for the time being. He is a journalist with Voice of America based in Lebanon. Thank you very much for that update.